Hello everybody, welcome along. Nigel with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench, and we have the first World War I Wednesday of 2025. Yes, today is Wednesday the 8th of January 2025, and we're back on this Sopwith Camel. It feels like an age since we've been near this, but here she is in all her glory with all her control cables and everything. You can see that the joystick controls the elevator. I couldn't think of the name of the elevator then. And then we've got the actual rudder pedals down here controlling the actual fin there, the actual rudder. So yeah, really pleased. It should also move the tail wheel, but unfortunately the resistance in the tail wheel is a little high, and what I was worried about was if I put too much preload in the cables, then eventually over time it would just break the rudder pedals off. So bear that in mind, guys. If you have got something a little bit stiff, misses, don't preload the cables to make it move, because over time it will just break, because the constant tension on the plastic, it won't put up with it and it'll just snap. It's the same when you do your antennas on your World War... Sorry about Dassy down here. It's the same when you do your World War II aircraft with the antenna, you know. A lot of people use Easy Line and they pull it and glue it, and over time that antenna is just going to snap off. Just all you need is just enough tension just to take the slack out, and never too much. So where are we? We haven't built the engine. We haven't built the engine yet. We're not worried about that. We've done all this here with all the control lines, and we put this fuselage together. Some of you will be hating the sound of Dottie in the background, and some of you will be loving it. Just have a look in the comments and see how much positivity she gets for making this noise. So I'll take the ball off for in a minute, but we'll put up with it for now. Now this instrument panel we have to build up. Okay, I've got it here. I've tried painting it and wood graining it with no success. I tried some HGW decals with no success, and I've tried the Aviattic decals again with no success. Now I spoke to Richard, and he said there is no way on this earth any decal is going to go down over that, and I perfectly agree with him. So what he suggested was cutting out the circles and put it down and everything. I tried that, but it's so difficult, because getting that to transfer onto the decals was very difficult. So in the end I just stripped it, and I've decided what I'm going to do is paint it, and I'm going to try a new method of doing wood graining, and I'll show you and bring you along. It's the first time I've ever tried it, so you're going to see me try it for the first time. So this is not a how-to or a how I do it. This is a watch me mess it up, I think, but we shall see. We've also got to glue this front engine mount panel on, which I believe is steel, and we've also got to put the oil tank on the back of there, and we've got those all painted up and ready, so we'll get those done. We've also got these two supports here painted up, ready to go on. So so it's all looking good. It's all coming together nicely. You can see the front on there is all going together. One thing I would suggest to you guys, if you are building one of these, you will see here they're telling you to put all this stuff in. Oops. They're telling you to put all this stuff in and then connect up the lines. Seriously, if you've got the instrument panel in there and you've got those cross braces in there, getting down in there to get to those lines is very difficult. So I would suggest taking my approach and do it all before you fit anything in the way. I've got this fitted purely to give some rigidity to the front of the fuselage. But the other thing we're going to do in this video, you can see after they've done all this, they want us to go on and assemble the wings, and obviously that will be assembling, getting them wood grained, and then doing all the rigging and everything. And then we sort of leave the wings behind and move on to this, which we've built. This is the fuel tank. So we're also going to have a look at the seat. We're not going to have a look at that in this video, I don't think. But what I do want to have a look at perhaps is getting this done. Okay, because this is actually the tension lines in the fuselage. The instructions are kind of all over the place. You're working on the engine, then you're working on the fuselage, then you're working on the wings, and then you go back to the fuselage. It doesn't seem to have any flow. It doesn't matter how, you know. But I do want to get this done before we start attaching wings and stuff, because you can imagine once we start getting wings on this, it's all, as you can see, it's all very flimsy. I mean, if Dottie got hold of this, it would last about 5 seconds. And that's what I worry about. That's why you haven't seen this on the bench for a little while. But she's sort of playing with her own things now, rather than trying to get my things all the time. yesterday morning I couldn't find my glasses, and then I found them. They were in her bed. Yeah, great. So anyway, I was like yesterday or Monday, I can't remember now. So I'm going to move on and get all this done as well, because what this will do with these cables in here, that will actually mean we can pull the fuselage square. I think it's got a very slight twist in it, so we can pull the fuselage square, but it'll also make it very rigid. But also doing this before we start adding wings and stuff is going to be a lot easier, which they're telling us to do. So what we may actually do in this video is go on and get the wings built up. We shall see. But we're certainly not going to fit them yet, and we're certainly not going to rig them today, because they're going to have to be painted, wood grained and everything, which means you might not see this back on the bench for a couple of weeks. But anyway, so that's where we are. So I'm going to go away and get this painted, and then we'll have a go at wood graining that, and then we'll look at what we're going to do after that. So back in a sec. Okay, so that's painted now. What I've done here, I've primed it. I've gone back to the Tamiya XF paints. I've done all this here with the wood grain with LP. One of the things I don't like about the LP16, is it? LP16 deck tan. It's sort of like, it dries with a kind of sheen to it, and it doesn't grip the oil paint, if you know what I mean. So I've gone back to the old XF78 here. So I've primed it with Mr. Surfacer to give it some bite on the plastic, because XF paints don't bite like Mr. Surfacer does. And then I've given it a coat of XF78, thinned heavily with Mr. Leveling Thinners. And I'm going to leave that to dry for a while, and then I'm going to use the oil paint on that, because basically the matte finish on here will bite, so it'll basically stain the wood. Whereas it's very similar to if you can imagine getting some black gloss paint and painting it on a kitchen tile or on this cardboard base, and then trying to wipe it away. It would come off the kitchen tile really easily, whereas it wouldn't come off this cardboard base. It would leave a stain behind. So it would kind of absorb it. And that's what I'm trying to get here. And what I'm going to do is use some artist tools to put a wood grain on there, because the thing is, you would normally use a brush, but the trouble is you've got all these raised bits in the way. So I'm going to see if I can use my artist tools and actually make the wood grain flow. So that's something we're going to give a go to. So now what we need to do is, first of all, get this fuselage out of the way so it doesn't get knocked and broken. So I think what we'll do is have a look at assembling one of these wings. So I think we'll leave the top one. We'll start with one of the bottom ones because it's easier to handle and get on camera. And then I think what I'll probably do is do all of this off camera, because it's just going to be crazy trying to, it's just going to be so boring watching me put all these ribs in. So we've got our wings here. So we've got lots and lots of ribs on sprues here. So we have this. Is this our D sprue? Yeah, these are our D sprues. They're the same. These are what's over there? Put these back in the bag. These are the black sprues. They're all our brackets and everything, and guns and stuff like that. And then, so we're going to need a load of D7s. So clearly there are a ton of D7s on here. So we're going to get those off. Now these are absolutely perfect for our God hands. So I'm going to grab these. I would normally use the blue ones, but Rob over at Brooks Models, brooksmodels.com, don't forget, use your codes NMB10, NMB20. NMB20 for £50 and above, NMB10 for £15 to £50, and you'll get a discount. So what we're going to do, I'll show you how to use these God hand nippers. Unfortunately as well, we have ejector pin marks on these. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 ejector pin marks on each. So what we'll do is we'll just sand them out. We won't bother filling them and stuff. So the way to use these are the God hand PN 120s, and then these are the God hand, come here, these are the God hand SPN 120s, and you can see the difference. Obviously these have got a blue handle, these have got a red, which makes it clear, but these have a much thicker blade. If I put them back to back, you can see here they have a much thicker blade. If you look at this side as well, you can see this one's very thin, this one's thicker. I've heard a lot of people saying if they drop these, they break easily because they're very hard material, and hard material generally means brittle. So they're the SPNs. So they're £50, £49.95, and these are £39.95. So either way with these, if you get these, you can get your 10% off. If you add something else to make it just go over 50, you get 20% off of those. So we're going to use these for the first time on a kit. I've been using those on my Tiger build. So we're going to use these for the first time. So the way to use them, and this is how to use them as God's hand recommend. You should never cut thick sprue with them, and if you are cutting anything thick, you should always come as deep as you can into the jaw. But when you want to remove a part, you cut away from the part initially, all right? So cutting away from the part, that part will come off, okay? And now what you can do, if you look at this part, you can see that the sprue gate is flush on one side and stepped on the other. So with these, I can come in, the blade is on this side, on the left, and the anvil is on the right. So basically, if I had a sprue gate which is in the middle of the part, all right, if I pushed it up a tight against it, it wouldn't go right tight against it. But this is exactly what these are designed for. So you can see we've got the sprue gate on there. It's off to one side, it's off to the right. So I can come in like this, I can push the blade, the upper jaw, hard into the part and cut. Do the same there, hard into the part and cut. And do the same there, hard into the part and cut. And you can see on there, we have the absolute minimum of sprue gate left behind. And with practice, you will get it so you've got no sprue gate left at all. Now, it's a positive that you can get so close. The downside to it is that the bit you leave is so small, sometimes you'll miss them and you won't spot them until you put some primer on. That's the downside. But there's always a downside to everything in life, isn't there? Pizza's lovely, but it makes you fat. So I'm not sure if there's supposed to be a step on here. Yes, there is. So you see, that's the other thing to be careful of. I've removed that sprue gate. There's supposed to be a tiny little step on there, and it looks like the step is the sprue gate. So I'm just going to go over the top, just like that. Just remove that, those remainder of sprue gate. So I'm going to go along the bottom because there's like a mould seam. The edge of the mould tool is the edge of the part, so you end up with this sort of flashy edge. And then what I'm going to do is come over here and just using what we can do here is get a marker. Okay, and what we can do is just using a Sharpie, we can just make a mark in each one of these little recessed ejector pin marks. They are very, very shallow, so we will be thinning the rib down, but that's okay. It's just going to slot into slots in the wing. It'll be fine. But we can just sand until they disappear, and if you find you are sanding a lot, unfortunately you're going to have to fill. But there we go. Make sure you remove all the pen, because as we say so many times on this channel, if you use pen it will come back through all your paint, which can be a shame. I'm a little bit concerned at how quiet Dottie is. I wonder what she's up to. But we can see there we are actually removing quite a bit, so I may actually stop there. And in fact what we'll do is we'll have a look and see. We'll sand it all away so we can use one as a guinea pig. We've probably got a spare or two in here. Okay, so I've sanded all that away, so all that pen's disappeared. So we'll grab a wing and we'll see how well it fits. There's lots of dust left in that sanding stick from a previous, doing that Stratos body I expect. So let's just grab these sprues out of here. So there's our lower wings. Never try and slide a sprue out. Always take them all out together, guys, unless the bag's big enough to allow you to do that. So there's our lower wings on there. So we'll keep this. Or is that our lower wings? No, that's the upper wing. No, they are our lower wings. They are the upper wing. Right, so we'll put that back in the bag. Always keep these sprues in the bags, guys, because they've got so many little bits and pieces that will catch and snap if you let the sprues slide around over each other. So we've got this wing here, which is that one. Oops, sorry, that one there. I just whacked you in the face then, didn't I? So that is that one there. So these ribs are going to go in here. So what's the fit like now that I've sanded it? Oh, it goes over there. Okay, so we can see that it has got a little bit of play in it, but hey ho. Let's just get one off. Let's just get one off and not sand it to see if there's much difference. And then I'm going to have to turn the camera off and go away. So that one's gone in there. This one hasn't been sanded at all. So how does that one fit? Yeah, you see that they've both got play in them. Neither of them are particularly good fit, so don't worry too much about sanding it. What we'll probably have to do is just come along with some Mr. Surfacer, just dab it in there and remove it with a cotton bud, because we don't want to see those big gaps. In fact, I'll probably use super glue there because it needs to continue down. Alright, so I'm going to get, how many of these we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 of those. So we've got 8 D7s, so we'll get those off and cleaned up. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 D8s. We'll get those off and get them cleaned up. So I'll come back when I've got all those ribs done. See you in a minute. Alright, I've got these are the number 7 ribs, the D7 ribs, and I've sanded them out, but as you can see there's some little witnesses of ejector pin marks still there. The problem is, because this is going to be wood grained, they will stick out like a sore thumb because the oil will go into those holes and stay there much like a wash. So what we need to do is make sure they're actually filled in. I'll go through those in a second. So what I've actually done is taken the sprues, and as you can see here, I've taken and I've just gone every 7, every 8, and the ailerons. I've gone in and put a drop of super glue in all of them, and I'm probably going to have to overgo them again just in a couple of areas because I can see there's one that shrunk back. And as I say, we really want them as nice as possible. The odd one or two won't hurt, but we don't want a consistent line because it will stick out like a sore thumb. When you look at the wing, you'll just see these dots all the way down because the oil will pick them up. So there we are. So that's those. And we've also got these others, which I've done there. So there's lots and lots to do here. And then I thought I'll have a look at the wings. Oh dear. Oh dear. Just on that spar there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just on that spar there, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 on that spar there. It's just absolutely ridiculous amount of ejector pin marks. I wish what Hasegawa had done has made these raised. If they'd have been raised, we could sand them out. Obviously they need to be there. There's no way you're going to eject that from the mob without having distortion or something. So they need to be there, but really they need to be raised if possible, please, Hasegawa. A bit late now for mine, but never mind. So I'm going to also go along and take the opportunity to fill all of these, and we'll look at the upper wings as well. Look at the upper wings another time, I think. I don't want to spend my whole life putting dots of super glue in things. So yeah, I'm going to get all that done. And then while all that's drying, we can come back and have a look at this instrument panel, I think. Right, see you in a second. So we've got, Lord only knows how many ejector pin marks filled with black super glue. So I'm going to have to leave those. The thing is, with the VMS black thin super glue, it makes a wonderful filler. But if you do sand it down too quickly, it shrink, like in 24 hours. It takes like 24 hours to properly dry. So you're best leaving it 24 hours, because all you'll do, if you sand it down now, I mean, it's probably, the thinner areas are dry enough to be sanded now, but if I sand that out now, come back tomorrow and there will be a witness there of an ejector pin mark. So it's best just to leave it and let it cure and let it go down. I also don't like using accelerator with it, because I find that it's okay using accelerator when you're gluing stuff, it's absolutely fine. But when you're actually using it as a filler, I find that you can get bubbles created in there, so that, and then when you prime it, you've just got to go over it again. So it's everything you do is kind of backwards. Just leave it, let it take its time, take your time, go and do something else, and you'll be happy. So, excuse me, coughing fit there. Right, so this instrument panel is dry enough now for some oil works. So I think what I'm going to do is stick it to my trusty block of wood that I'm not prepared with. So I've got a block of wood here with a piece of blue tack. I think what I'm going to do is stick it on there like that. Right, and we'll practice on the back first. I'm not sure how much of the back's going to be seen. I really don't want any of it to be seen, to be honest. I think the cowling glues over, but I don't really want to look at that. So I may have to go back and do some work on it. So I've got my oil paint here. It's been on the cardboard for about an hour. So I've just had some lunch and it's repeating on me. It's been on the cardboard for about an hour. So I'm just going to brush this oil out on here. We'll go into the holes and try and hide them, which is going to be very, very difficult. Just get some of that lighter colour there and brush that in as well. Okay, we should now be able to brush this out. And of course on this side, it's easy because it's fairly flat. We've got the recesses in there. But actually wood graining should be quite easy. And what I'm going to do is try a different method that I've never actually tried before. But it was something I saw in one of my World War I books. I think it was mentioned there, or did I sort of see this method used for something else and then thought, oh, that would be good for wood grain? I can't remember now, so I'm sorry, I can't credit where I got this from. But the if anything, it came from one of the AFV Club World War One, you know, the World War I books, the Wingnut Wing's How to Build Things. You know, it wasn't from the brilliant Wingsock data file books. It wasn't from those, which is Ray Rimble's domain. Those books are absolutely brilliant, and I've got a few of those to help with this Sopwith build. Thanks to Ray sending them over. Thank you, Ray, and Happy New Year to you, sir. So there we go. So that's oil on there, and that's probably a little bit too much. It's probably a bit too wet. So what I think I'm going to do is we'll get that brush over there out of the way. I'm going to grab a cotton bud and I'm just going to remove some, but you can see that what's happened is that paint has become stained. So once again, we can use the cotton bud to impart a kind of wood grain look, as you can see there. So there we go. You can see you can get a kind of wood grain look just by using a cotton bud. Just stroke it along. Don't go in dead straight lines because it won't look right. But you could sort of go like that, go diagonally across it. And if you don't like it, just mess it up and start again. If you think it's too dark and you want to remove... Oh dear, there's a dog barking outside. It might start Dotty off again. Get it around those edges and get it in the nooks and crannies in there, look. Just pull it all around. You can see that with wood graining, cotton buds are your friend. They really are your friend. Now the trouble is when it comes to the other side, that's when we have a problem. Because of those bezels, they're going to be in the way. Just twist them in there, and then what we can do then is what I recommend here: grab some cutters, cut the end of the cotton bud off. Otherwise you end up with that oil in your hand, and it's in here in your fingers, and it can kind of, for want of a better term, it kind of soaks into your skin and kind of dyes your skin. And you know, you'll have people thinking you're a heavy smoker. You have brown marks in your fingers. So there we go. Right. So you can see there we can get a wood grain effect. We can go really heavy and, oops, not supposed to do that. you can go really heavy and almost completely remove it. But you can see on here that with the XF78 rather than the LP16, the paint underneath has kind of been stained. So even when you wipe it all off, you still have a kind of nice wood colour on there. Yeah, the camera's making it look a lot sort of more cherry than it really is. It's actually in real life it's almost like pine colour, but the camera's making it look very cherry like. So there we go, so that's that side done. Now we've got to try and work out how on earth we're going to hold it to do this side. So I think what we'll do is just put it on a cloth, and then we can take our oil paints, a mixture there, and just dab them on. I don't want to put too much in because I don't want it to build up in all the corners. If I put too much on it, when we brush across, it'll just all build up in the corners and it'll be very difficult to get out. And then as soon as you touch it, it'll just smear across. Right, so that's all we're going to put on that side. You look at the amount I put on there compared to the other side, it's a lot less. Okay, remember this is a mixture of the burnt sienna and the burnt umber. I'm not sure if that's wood there, I don't think it is. I have to check my windsock data file, but the photographs we got in there. I was also looking as well when I was doing those ejector pin marks. I've got a feeling I may need to make metal trailing edges for the ailerons, or I may just sand down the plastic ones, we shall see. I mean, the thing is with the elevators, I wanted to do the elevators with metal because they were so chunky, but the ailerons aren't quite that chunky. But I think it's probably worth doing because they do look so good. If you don't know what I'm talking about, here is the model with the kit as standard. You get plastic elevators. It's all plastic. So what I've done is replaced the ends with brass rod and super glued it all up, so that you got that thin look rather than the chunky plastic parts. So if you look at that and thinking it looks really fine compared to yours, that's why. It's not because I haven't rubbed it down or anything, or I haven't got a special kit or aftermarket. It's just something I did myself, scratch built it. Go back and have a look at the videos and you'll see in there. Generally, if the video, World War I Wednesday, started off as Wingnut Wings Wednesday. I've given them all numbers now and they're all in a playlist, so you can go and watch them all in sequence. But generally, if the image that you see on your screen is a side-on view of a Sopwith Camel, it will be covering this model. If it's an armoured car, it will be covering the Austin armoured car from Mini Art, which is a right balls ache of a kit, I must be honest. It's got 750,000 parts, which is typical for Mini Art. Some people even in the comments, they call it Mini Part, not Mini Art. But there we go. So that's the oil paint on there. And as you can see, trying to put a wood grain finish on here is going to be extremely difficult because everything's in the way. So what I thought about doing was using these tools here. Now here's a set. I've got two sets of these, and these are 5 pieces clay sculpting decoration tools. Have a look on Amazon, okay? But don't just buy the first ones you see and think, oh, they're £5, that's cheap, I'll buy those. Because if you look deeper, you can actually get a set of these, believe it or not, for like £1.49, and if you've got Prime, you get free delivery as well, don't you? So, you know, it's just absolutely crazy. So there we are. So they're going in like that. Well, that brush is. I'm just making sure I got oil in all the corners without having it built up too much. So my intention now, and this is just an idea, I'm not sure if it's going to work or not. You see that wood grain on the back has stayed, even though it's wet. My intention now is to use these tools to impart a kind of wood grain finish. I think that's a bit harsh. Let's try this one. Maybe I can try and show you this. Maybe if I just stroke it like this. Okay. So you can see we've got a wood grain kind of finish starting to appear. But it's very harsh. It's sort of, it's too stripy, if you like. And then maybe I can gently go over the cotton bud and just soften it. Like I say, guys, I haven't tried this before. You're watching me do this for the first time. Unbelievably, that seems to work. Actually, you can just dab it and it softens it as well. That actually seems to work. Those areas in between there. Just going to use this rubber tool or silicone tool, whatever it is. And then I think I'll use the brush in there to soften that. Hopefully sometime in the very near future, well, once the weather sorts itself out, I'll be doing a video and I'll visit Richard down at Aviattic and we can all go and see inside his establishment and see what he's got there. So it's very, very subtle, but there's definitely a wood grain finish going on. But this is the beauty of the oils. We can mess with it and play with it, so we can turn this on an angle sideways so it's making a bigger line. And then, I wonder what it's like with a brush. If we gently stroke it with a brush, yeah, that works as well, look. So we've still got the lines there for the wood grain, but it's very soft and subtle, which is really good. I'm really pleased with how that's coming out. So we just go across like that, rub a few lines into it, like so. And then just gently stroke it with a brush. Yeah. I think we can all agree that's looks quite nice. And the thing is, it doesn't need to be precisely like wood grain, because you have to remember, if you think of yourself as an artist rather than a modeler, artists rely on what the eye is telling you. So people won't look at this and think, ooh, is that the correct pattern for birchwood or plywood or whatever? They'll look at it and say, that's a wooden instrument panel. That's it. But bearing in mind, no one's ever going to see this unless I ever enter it in a show or anything, or put it on a club stand. But I probably wouldn't, because it'd be so fragile it would probably fall apart if you moved it. But you can see here that with these tools, with these little silicone tools, I can impart you may like that finish, you may like that for your wood grain, and then go over it with some orange or something to make it less harsh. You can take this tool and tip it sort of sideways and soften. As I say, we're learning, you're watching me learn. So maybe you'll have some suggestions. There we go. So I'm going to play with that a little bit more, I think, and see how we can make it look. Now somebody did tell me, and I did mention it before, that you don't need to wait for this to dry for a long time. You can go over it and give it a clear coat sooner than you think. That's all well and good, and it does work. However, there is a caveat to that. It does work, but you have to remember you're putting a clear coat on there and the clear coat will dry. But between the clear coat and the oil is clear coat and oil. Think of it as like a sandwich, and then you've got the oil on the paint. And the clear coat is sat on top of the oil and it dries and forms like an eggshell, but the oil is still wet underneath. So it's not very hard wearing. So if parts like this that I need to handle a lot, to put decals on and gauge faces and painting and all that, it's best to leave it. So I'm going to leave this, once I finish messing with the oils, I'm going to leave it for probably 36, 48 or 72 hours is what I meant to say. I'm going to leave it that long before I clear coat it. I'm also making sure we've got a very thin layer of oil. But and also I'm just trying to show you here, once you've done it, you can look at it and think, I don't like that, just go over it again. You could just go over it just like this, look, rough as you like, just go over it. And there we go. And you can see I can get into all the corners, get into all the nooks and crannies. There's Dotty biting the chair again. There we go. And we got all this to do on all those lovely wing parts, but we'll get the wings together first and filled and everything. So yeah, I'm really happy. That's a new process up my sleeve I've never tried before. And by all means, you go and give it a go. But just please, if you are a YouTuber, yeah, don't make a video and say, look what I'm doing here, look at this. Just say, I saw Nigel over on Nigel's Modeling Bench, and he was doing this. Just, do what I do and give some credit for the things you learn. Because at the end of the day, we're all here watching each other. Most of us are watching for free. And, taking other people's ideas and having them as your own, I think is, it's just not fair. It's not right, is it? If you've never done wood graining and it works really well for you and you've got a YouTube channel, don't try and be the master of wood graining. Just, I got this technique off of Nigel's Modeling Bench. It takes nothing. It's like the guy, the Pedal 2 Metal, I don't know his name. He's building a Porsche 917, and I'm building a Porsche 917. And whenever he says he's got an idea off of me, or he's seen me do something, then he credits me for it. I'm not after royalties. I'm not after, I'm not trying to say I'm the best modeler on the planet or I want all the recognition. And because I'm not the best modeler on the planet, I'm not the best anything. But I just think credit where credit's due. It's like my little thing with soaking up super glue. I got that off with a cotton bud. I got that off Phil Flory. And I've mentioned that probably 50 times on this channel if you look back over the videos. But there we go. So we can just play with this to our heart's content. We go back to the old process of using a brush. I'm not going to put any more oil on there because I don't want it building up in the corners, but you can see there that we've got a wooden panel, but it's not very grainy, so we'll put some wood grain in there. Let's use this is the chisel end. Let's see how that looks. See how much you can play with this, guys. Oils, I think, are the best way of doing wood grain. Unless of course it's larger areas like wings and stuff, and then that's when the decals come into play. But when you've got areas like this, I don't think the decals are such a good idea unless you can cut them perfectly. What's Dotty doing now? What's the matter, Dotty? I should be taking her walks, but it's about -2, I think, outside, and it's bloody, the paths are all white and frosty, and I worry about her little young paws. There we go. So as you can see, just keep playing with it. You get dirty as well, but there we go. All right, so there we are. I'll play with this some more, and then we'll come back and say goodbye. There we go. I'm happy with that. Okay, I'm just going to show you in one area how I got there. Basically, just go across with the tool, make some lines in the paint, okay, and then very, very gently brush over it, just to sort of make it a bit more subtle. So again, just go over, make some lines in the paint, as you can see there, very subtle, and then very gently, just with the tip of the brush, just like you're dry brushing, just go over it and soften out those lines so that you can still see them. See that there on the top? You can still see where I've rubbed it with the tool, but I've basically softened it out and blended it in, and that's given us our wood grain look. You have to remember, guys, as well, this is 16th scale, so you know it needs to be bigger than you're used to doing on your 32nd scale bombers and stuff. So there we are. Right, I'm happy with that. You can look at that. It's, when we clear coat it, if we're not happy, we can give it a coat of yellow to dull it down, give it a coat of grey to age it, give it a coat of orange to brighten it up. You know, there's all sorts of things you can do. But what we need to do is just now let this oil dry. What I want to do is see if I can use the point of this tool to get in around this bezel here and just remove the excess of oil that's built up in the corner. Yes, we can. Look, that's amazing. Those tools are bloody brilliant. I originally got them because I saw somebody using them. Who was it? I forget now, I'm sorry. There's me on about crediting people. They use them for decals, and they actually move the decals around with these and then just push them down. These are going to need a clean now, but I've got two sets, so I use one for wheels and one for decals. But I think I used them on the Gannett video, didn't I? I would have credited whoever I got it from there. But there we go. There's our instrument panel. Wood grained and done. Right, so I'm going to leave that now for 3, maybe 4 days. And then I'll give it a clear coat. I'm going to leave all these, these multitude of panels that have got, you know, 8,000 million blobs of super glue on. You can see these bits here are still wet. I did these in case they can be seen from underneath the fuselage. I don't think they can, but I'm not sure if we're going to have these panels on or off or removable or what. And I'm not really sure what I'm going to have to do about the back of this instrument panel, but I certainly don't want to be looking at those holes there. Anyway, I'll see you all soon. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry there hasn't been much in this one, but I've been busy doing other stuff, as you all know, and it's been Christmas and that, and we've got to try and get back to normality. All right, so I'll see you all next week for another another World War I Wednesday, and at that time we'll have this clear coat and look at what we're going to do with it next. So I'll see you then. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.